close enough? There we go. Thanks, everyone. Make sure that you catch up with the SSRN folks at lunch. I know we had to cut the Q&A a little short, but we don't want you to miss your questions. They'll be around. You can chat with them. I'm going to roll right along. I'm going to finish out these sessions about what else you can do with DC, and we're going to introduce Pramita Chatterjee. She's going to talk to us about modern journal designs. It's going to be fantastic. Pramita, you have to get really close. All right.
Hi, so up close and personal. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you everyone here today so much. Thank you to my colleagues, Krista, Tracy today, Yoga yesterday, such incredible, rich presentations, and thank you to all of the folks in the community. I always go away inspired. This time I'm really particularly energized, so hoping to keep up the momentum and doing my part a little bit today. So I'm Pramita Chatterjee. I'm Director of Journals for Digital Commons. And I thought I've been talking to a lot of you over the last 30 days, so let me start with a little bit of a background about myself. My background is I started in academia. I studied at UC Berkeley, and I studied literature, and I was always really fascinated by libraries, museums, and different ways that we ingest information through networks and systems. Over the years, I've evolved a little bit. I've worked actually in libraries, as I mentioned before, and in publishing as well. And over the last 13 years, it's been my great pleasure to be working with this community. So it's been super fun. I started out, as some of you might have known, I started out working in the outreach team with Digital Commons. And in that role, I got to work and talk to a lot of you. I talked about open access journals. I talked about open educational resources. I talked about data management way back when it was 2013 and we had the original memo. And I've been also talking a lot about the impact of open access and how do we quantify that, how do we think about that, and that's been super fun. Over the last 5 or 6 years, I've focused on the journals module, so the different new things that we can do with Digital Commons. And over the last 5 years, we've been doing lots of things. One is growing them more internationally, and also a little bit, the last year or so, working a lot on the interface and like modernizing Digital Commons, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So quick question, I'm going to see if this works. All right, great. So this is a little bit of a preview of what we're going to talk about today. But before we get there, I wanted to talk a little bit about the journal. So I know that we've been talking, several of you have mentioned it. So just a quick show of hands. Who has Digital Commons journals in their repository right now? So many, okay. And how many of you have had a sneak peek into the modern journal designs? Oh, great, wow, that's more than I expected. Wonderful, and is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to see them, or, this is the first time? That would be fun too. Oh, great, okay. Yeah, Lena, okay, all right. Well, I'm hoping that we can, it'll be a fun little sneak peek for you today. All right, so today's agenda is talking about Digital Commons journals. So a quick preview, we've got over 3,000 journals on Digital Commons. About half of the 3,000 are actively publishing journals. So these include both student journals, law journals, as well as journals published by faculty. We've got over 400 institutions using Digital Commons journals, and this spreads across about 40 countries. So we've gone really global over the past 5 years. Next up, why are people using Digital Commons journals? Why are they so popular? So in general, Digital Commons, as you all know, I always talk about it as a soup to nuts kind of experience, but there's some really key problems that DC Journal solves for editors. Most often, as you know, if you're working at an institution, the key thing for an editor or for an institution is to have a stable and professional site. So Digital Commons provides something that's out-of-the-box professional. We provide that technological support and the stable platform, including security and accessibility, that really helps everyone meet their needs as they build up their journals. A lot of journals as well are looking for visibility. You know, if it's a journal coming, whether it's something coming out of a more prominent university or from a more niche society, every journal wants to get readers, and that's something that we help with. We also help with a lot of tools to support professionalization and more sort of effective performance. So things like speeding up peer review, helping get more submissions, helping get the impact and data with our great downloads and our dashboards, et cetera, to showcase that. And then we also have, by virtue of this platform, ways to create community and to create globalization and internationalization for journals. And then finally, you know, circling back to that loop around professionalization, we help journals with bigger goals too as they start to grow, so things like getting indexed as well. So how does this kind of play out in terms of our feature set? I'm not going to go through all of this right now, but again, just know that Digital Commons is basically a soup to nuts solution, so anything from submissions to the full workflow and peer review tools. It sounds like you guys could probably talk about it a little bit better than me, but also the publishing and then getting all of that like sort of data from the other side as well. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. This presentation is more about our launch, so I want to talk a little bit about our process and into building our new UI designs and give you a little bit of a sneak peek behind the curtain. Although again, since I've worked and talked to so many of you that are in the room today, I feel like I should be getting you on the stage, and you'll kind of be on the stage in a little bit, and just you'll see. So how do we work towards this new design? So I wanted to just step back for a little bit and think about, you know, what's been going on in terms of scholarly journals overall over the past 20, 25 years. You know, Digital Commons originally was formed as part of Berkeley Electronic Press way back in the 90s. And if, you know, some of you may know that way back when, the core of like a lot of Digital Commons software are those journal publishing tools. So, you know, we were created by founders who were professors in the law school and economic schools at the University of California, Berkeley, and they founded Digital Commons with this goal around, you know, the burgeoning internet and the possibility of open access, but also with a very determined understanding that software could really speed up some of those problems that we saw in terms of peer review and the slowness of getting research out to the world. So those are the two kind of founding principles that are baked into our software and that still drive a lot of our vision today in creating our new tools. So over the last 20, 25 years, we've seen such a big, giant growth, you know, between new technologies, between new databases. How are we ingesting that kind of information? So there's been a real evolution in terms of online reading experiences and search experiences. Also mobile, so the growth of mobile, the growth of internationalization, the need to be able to access information on all sorts of different kinds of devices is really affecting how we think about modern research experiences. We're also hearing, as we heard today, the increasing use of multimedia in research. So that's a really big factor that's impacting scholarly research landscape. And then finally, the growth, of course, of open access, right? So open access, even when I started at Digital Commons, was a little bit more of a, you know, we needed to kind of convince faculty members. And now it's become, I mean, it's not quite there yet, but it's become much more sort of the default understanding. So how do we create platforms that are built for open access? And then finally, as we heard with Ishwar and Tracy's presentation before, it's more and more important to have these sort of expanded information standards, things like PIDs, et cetera, that are built into our platforms. So this is kind of like the factors in the background. And I wanted to point out a little bit about our history, as I alluded to before. We started way back when, whoops, let me go back one more slide. doing that? Okay, there we go. So we started way back when in the 90s with a publishing, with the Berkeley Electronic Press publishing platform. But in 2001, we helped with the University of California. We launched the first time an open access journal in their system. And then over the years, we've been supporting that model of Diamond Open Access with our community, and really getting your input on all of this. In 2007, we really switched more to that Diamond Access model as opposed to more of our traditional publishing. And in 2012, we introduced a lot of services, publishing services, things like adding DOIs, so early on, adding DOIs, adding clocks, adding Portico archiving for journals. And then in 2019, we added another tier for premier journals. So things like typesetting, advanced tools like Editorial Manager to support the ambitions of other journals. And then really excited today to present the launch of our modern journal designs, which is our sort of latest improvement for this module. Okay, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about what we heard from you. Like, why was it that we built this new design? So when we started off on this project, like it was a while ago now, 3 or 4 years, and I started to talk to so many of the community, we found like there were 4 buckets of feedback. So, topmost was that there needed to be a refresh. We know that about DC. Anything that's been around for a while needs that kind of refreshed look. So, these are actual quotes that you're seeing up on the screen. So, people wanted to look more like a journal. They wanted a journal that looked like a journal, not an IR, and not a database. They wanted, they had things like, I want to look like PLOS, or I want to look like Lancet, et cetera. But there was other sort of like more profound pieces of input, or I want to say almost poignant pieces of input around aesthetic flexibility, this idea of dynamism, and then also what was really key is this idea of more functionality. So like what is modern, when you say like, oh, we want to modernize something, what does that mean? So one of, what we heard was modern meant more functionality. So having like things like we were hearing about sort of the embedded commenting aspects or more multimedia, more ways to add things like blogs, announcements, news pages. We heard from one person in particular was talking a little bit about the journal is not just a journal, it's like a research community. It's almost like a platform. And he used the idea of the Harvard Business Review and how they've evolved from being like that magazine to being a whole community that really is, having podcasts, having videos, having conferences, et cetera. So he was imagining the journal as the opening for a broader research discussion. And that was very inspiring to us. Also, this ability of more control. So being able to go in and really be able to customize things. We do have our wonderful CS teams who are always there to help you achieve a lot of customizations. But modern for a lot of folks meant that there's like sort of a tinkering aspect, I think, to a lot of our digital commons community. So modern meant like, we want to be able to change things and we want to do it fast. So we wanted to kind of accommodate for that. And then finally, this idea of building community, that idea of the research community that the journal represents. So that was a big motivator for us as well. All right, so here's a little bit more. How do we take that feedback and then build our approach? So I've got some fun pictures here showing a little bit of some of the activities that we did. In the beginning, we took a lot of that feedback and we did really do some sort of design thinking kind of exercises with, sticky notes, like kind of categorizing the feedback we got back from you. We also created a lot of mock-ups. So that was really key to our process, is doing a lot of prototyping and taking the prototype, having people kind of walk through those prototypes. And some of you here, thank you for your patience, and thank you for your, your engagement and for your enthusiasm. It was just absolutely invaluable. You'll see there was a lot of Zoom calls, so there's a picture here. Is Deborah here from Emory Riddle? I'm not seeing her. She was here before, but that's Deborah's colleague, Jesper Jensen. working with me and another of his colleagues and giving us feedback. So lots and lots of calls and, different kind of levels of iteration, both with sort of more open-ended questions, but also much more directed using things like prototypes and actually watching users, kind of narrate to us how they were using the screens. In the end, we had about 4 kind of key guiding principles that helped us with our designs. And this kind of goes back to some of those problems that you saw before. So you'll see a lot of repetition in terms of the themes. So the 4 guiding principles that came up for us was that people needed professional, credible journals. So they needed a template that would help them establish that sense of credibility. And this came up a lot in our networking session yesterday when we were talking about the journals. Like, I'm starting a journal, but how do I make sure people know it's real? That's a real, a real question. Number 2, they wanted something responsive. So going back to, what does modern mean? So responsive is really key to it. And there's so many angles to that, which you'll see a little bit in our designs later. Number 3, that self-service. It needed to be easy to customize and update. And number 4, that functionality. They wanted different kinds of content to be showing up in the design. So it had to multimedia and then new forms of scholarship. So how is scholarship coming out these days? Cyril mentioned it a little bit earlier that, student publications is a key goal of his. That's his fun fact, I think. But when you talk to Cyril, student publication is not just a PDF anymore. Right? It can, for him, it's actually like these 3D herbarium. It can range way into that, but something more simple like videos or podcasts, which, is how students are learning more and more these days. All right. Okay. All right. So ta-da, here are our modern journal designs. You're seeing right now a journal that's coming out of the University of Denver. And this is Soundboard Scholar, which is also co-published by the Guitar Foundation of America. And these are and I'm going to show you a before and after in just a minute. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show a video that I'm hoping is going to work. And this, you'll see a little bit of some of the new designs in action. So I think I'm going to do this. And all right, great. So what you're seeing here is our new designs. One of the things that we did is move the journal information pages to the top level navigation up at the top. We also have the login and search bars there. And then we have several sections. So the banner, a current issue section, a featured content section, a current article section, and most popular article section. So these kind of have accordions to fold up or fold down. This is our MVP. So these are the sections that we came up with in the beginning, and you're going to be seeing a lot more. We also have this footer that includes the logos for the journals. I'm showing you a couple more. Heather talked about My America, so I'm really excited to be able to show this one. This is one of the ones that's using our new designs, and they're playing around with some of the ways to separate the content and use our images in a lot of ways. Again, we have Soundboard Scholar here. I love that beautiful old, the images they've used of the scores. And then here you see the responsiveness in action. So we're doing a lot with our design team to make sure that your logos and your banners are customized, really show off your journal, but also can meet all of these standards in terms of the responsiveness. The ELA journal there has the images, and you can see that the articles are still linking back to our digital commons article pages, but we're using the design elements to create a little bit of continuity. You'll see in a bit, we're going to be working on the article pages later this year. This is our test journal, not a real journal. This is going to the part about self-service customization. So you can see that this as an editor is logged in. You'll see the edit toggle. These edit widgets come up. You can easily update, whatever is featured. If something's in the news, you can highlight it pretty quickly. You can add images. You can add new articles. So this gives you a little bit of an experience there. Some water. So yeah, and then this also shows you some of those different sections that we've got. You can also edit the navigation. So this you can link out to things that are in the journal, or you can link out to pages that are outside as well. This is something that's new. So those of you who have looked at our modern journal designs, as I mentioned, some elements are still linking back to our classic DC pages, but we are currently building in Sprint the journal information pages. And so these are custom pages. They're using WYSIWYG editors. Right now, in order to customize those pages, you'd need to do HTML coding or get your CS rep to do it. So this makes it really easy to update that information, which often needs to get updated pretty rapidly. So you can see that you can create a page, you can preview it, you can make a draft, you can publish it super, super quickly. And then you can also add it, get a link to it once you've published it and add it to the navigation menu. All right, so that is our test journal. And then, yeah, we're hoping that you'll be able to start using these pretty quickly. And I think that's it in terms of the demo. Here are a couple of the before and afters. So I didn't have a lot of before pictures because a lot of you are familiar with our journals. But Alice is here. I think she had been here. There she is. So this is one that we've been working on, the VAD journal, which is a really long time journal in DC. It used to be at University of Kentucky. Now it's at the Texas Medical Center. You can kind of see, we actually use some of the same graphics, and our design team is working on making banners that are more consistent and kind of updating the look and feel. We're working on getting them to move over. This is their test site. So one of the fun things about the new designs is we really can create a sandbox site, and you can play around with it. It doesn't have to go public until you're ready. Another one, this is that ELA journal, which you just saw. You can also see how more updated it looks. Really good, nice look and feel. So I talked about a lot of this, but I want to just call out again some of the key features. So the modern journal designs, they focus on being responsive, so that's built into the platform. We say we have some responsiveness on DC right now, but these really are being built this way from the get-go. And it's part of our design process, too. So that is really something that we're offering a little bit more of, if I can incentivize you guys to start getting to use it now. Our design teams are a little bit more hands-on now as we roll out, because we really want to get this right. Number two, the designs are using that intuitive navigation. So the top level navigation with the easy to find at the top, the submenus. It's just in general, a lot of the feedback we got was like, it just needs to be less cluttered. So more white space, cleaner designs. And then, this idea of like, how do I make a journal that's a real journal, a credible journal? So we have a lot of elements that are built in. It's part of the product to make it professional out of the box. So have a publication ethics page. You have your aims and scope, things that, both indexers look for, but also authors look for to kind of make those marks of credibility. Also, the self-service customization, like we want to update it, but we want to do it easily. So this is intuitive inline editing. It's easy to manage the admin pages, etc. A little bit more around that. We're also trying to make it really flexible, in addition to being really intuitive and easy, but also really flexible. So if you needed to update an image, if you wanted to add a different article, as I mentioned before, we're also starting to work on building in alt text for all of our images, so that will be part and parcel of the accessibility standards on these new designs. And hopefully it's something that we will be sharing with the rest of DC as well. And then finally, the custom pages, which haven't been released yet, but are in Sprint now, and we expect them to be out in the next month or so. So those of you that have been testing out the journals, come and talk to me, and we can see how to change some of those journal information pages and put them on the new platform. On the left, you'll see a custom page that is what I showed you before. It's just text. And then on the right, you'll see what's coming in the future, which is different kind of blocks, like image blocks, profile blocks for those the editorial board pages, so you can have an image as well as a little bio, etc. Coming soon, we know that for so many of you, the real-time readership maps, it's a no-go without those. So we had to get those on pretty quickly. They didn't come out with the initial release, but they're also in sprint, and we're also hoping that they're out by the end of the summer. So again, come talk to me if you want to add that section. And, finally, I just wanted to kind of go back, and talk a little bit about what we're hearing from the community. So Heather, I've got you on here because I know you sent this email over to CS, and it was so inspiring to me. Heather's quote is on the bottom on the left. So Maya America, their readership is a lot from outside of the US. And it's a lot in countries where people primarily are accessing their journals on phones. So that responsive design is absolutely key to serving their readership, to serving that research community. So that was such a fantastic piece of feedback. And we've also heard from Heidi Southworth, who had done the webinar with me, if you guys saw that. Heidi has an undergraduate journal at Minnesota State Mankato. And for a lot of her student journals, they do a big research journal there. The students were kind of like, oh, we're not really submitting to this thing that looks like it's from the 90s, So having the new designs, you can see right there that their submissions went up, 9 times or so. So that's incredible. And Aaron Richine, who also did the webinar with me this spring, at Texas A&M Law, one of the things that he said was a lot of law students, while they have the journals on their DC sites, they're also creating a lot of WordPress sites, right? So they'll create a WordPress site or a bespoke site, but that creates a lot of technical overhead and extra work for their team at the library. So this was a huge thing that he could bring. Our sites can kind of basically speak to that WordPress experience, and so that was a big win that he could bring to his administration in terms of saving money, that we don't have to keep those up anymore. And then finally, Kevin, who's got a journal that was born on Digital Commons in Ireland, has been going gangbusters, is in Scopus now, keeps climbing up on Scopus. For him, it's all about getting to that stage of professionalization, so that not only are you serving your research community, but that you're signaling to indexers, to folks that are citing your journal, that you're a credible journal. So he really appreciated that professionalization out of the box. All right, so coming soon, a few pictures of what you can see in the days ahead. We're going to be adding more sections to our homepages. I don't know why it keeps going back. It really wants you to know that, here, let me just do this one more time. We're going to be having some additions to our journal homepages. We're going to be doing new article pages. I'm going to talk really fast. And if you want to get started, we've got over 120 new journals using our new designs. 30 are in the design process. We've got over 15 journals live. It's really, really easy. I can't tell you how easy it is to get started. Please back me up here, Heather. And talk to your CS person, talk to me. We really hope to see a lot of journals, kind of refreshing their look and feel. And the main thing here, it's not an upcharge. This is what we're doing to modernize DC. All right, I think that's it for me.